You're listening to the Planet 76 podcast, a podcast about 76ers basketball, and we're cleared for takeoff. Let's go. Sixers fans, welcome into another episode of Planet 76. I am one of your co-hosts, Troy. I've got Michael with me for episode 54 of the podcast. We've come a long way, man. I'm just gonna say
we've come a very long way. We're almost at the Dikembe episode.
That's right. We are chugging right along, even in the off season, making content. So, just so you know, kind of what we've done. If you missed our last couple episodes, being episode 52 and episode 53, that was kind of our season recap, wrapping up all things regular season, all things playoffs. I think we even said we're putting a bow on the 2021-2022 season for the Sixers and moving on. And so that is what we're doing officially tonight for episode 54. Not looking too much back on the season that was, but looking ahead toward the future. It is June 9th we're recording, so this is technically, I guess, our third episode of the off season. NBA Finals are still going on, and we're going to talk about some of the NBA Finals today. We're going to have a segment just talking about who we think we would like to see the Sixers add in the offseason, who might not be a Sixer anymore once the season starts here in just a few months. And so we're going to play a segment called Who Stays, Who Goes, talk about the NBA Finals that are underway with the Celtics up 2-1, and talk about a new movie that just dropped featuring a lot of 76ers. That's right. So the new Hustle movie is what it's called, with Adam Sandler and some guys in that movie. That's where we're going to start. Have you seen that yet? It just came out on Netflix.
I haven't seen it yet. I might watch it. We'll see.
Oh.
Doc Rivers is in it, so I might pass.
Oh, no. You should watch it. They did not pay me to say this, but that movie is great.
Really?
So I watched it last night. I posted it on Planet 76 on Instagram, and it was pretty good, man. I'm an Adam Sandler fan, and I thought he did a great job. And it's just cool to see very, very minimal roles. Don't think Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, Matisse Thybulle are in the movie a ton, but there's segments that they're in it, and Adam Sandler's a scout for the 76ers in the movie. That's the role he plays, and he's an overseas scout, spends a lot of time looking for talent, and not to give too many spoilers away, he finds some talent, and it's just good, man. It's a pretty solid movie with some big names, some big NBA names featured throughout, so I think it's just pretty unique in that way. So if you're a basketball fan, a Sixers fan, you should definitely tune in to Hustle on Netflix. Just came out this week, I think.
Oh. Funny story. Yesterday on my Instagram, I was talking about something, and someone commented Sixers should target, what was his name? I forget what the name was, and they were like, you should look into them, and I was like, okay, I will. So I looked up the name, and it was one of the characters in the movie, and I was like, I just got absolutely trolled. And I went back to them. I was like, wow, you got me. And then they just laughed. I was like, oh my gosh.
That's good. Yeah, Anthony Edwards played I'd say probably, one of the bigger roles in it.
Okay.
Kind of played a villain role. It was just fun. It was a fun movie. So you should check it out, Mr. Trust Love, and get back to me on that.
My off-season plans.
There you go. Add it to the list. So, like we mentioned, too, the NBA Finals are underway, well underway, 2-1 in favor of the Celtics right now. Have you been catching any of that? I've caught very little. You throw the thumbs down at me for the Celtics. I agree. Yeah. Any thoughts there?
I watched Game 1 in its entirety. I watched not really too much of Game 2, but Game 3 I caught most of as well. And, the Warriors, I don't know what it is. They just need to figure out a way to keep... they get hot.
Yeah.
And then they kind of get cold, simply put. And, the Celtics just find ways to get back in the game. The Warriors were down 20. They came back. They were winning. And then they ended up losing. I don't know what it is. A lot of times their guys just shoot themselves out of the game, whereas the Celtics just kind of I don't know. They don't rely on threes as heavily as the Warriors. I think that probably has a factor. But it's like the Celtics won both times. They won the same exact way. They were down, or they were up. They lost the lead and then they came back and won. Like same thing with Game 1 when the Celtics won Game 1. It was like Warriors were up big, they got hot. Celtics came back and won.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I think if the Warriors can just sustain more of the better end of how they've been playing it in spurts, then they got a chance certainly to get back in the series. A big one in Game 4 coming up. That is for sure. So we'll see what happens in Game 4. I also think that it's interesting some of the things that have played out in this series. There's been a lot of more talk, less about the games and more about some words exchanged with Celtics fans to Draymond Green, particularly in Game 3. Just not. There's just no place for it. So I don't know your thoughts on that whole situation. So I don't know if you saw Klay Thompson's comments post-game. He said, "Oh, that's real classy, Boston fans," And then I saw someone on Twitter post the segment where several years ago, when I believe when the Warriors were up 3-1 on LeBron and the Cavs, Klay Thompson, after LeBron made some comments about the fans, Klay Thompson said, "Well, I guess he just can't handle being called a bad name. His feelings just got hurt." And then literally Klay Thompson saying, they shouldn't be saying that. The kids are in the stadium, or in the arena and everything, and just kind of interesting. I don't know. My opinion. I mean, the reality is there are fans everywhere that are just not nice and are rude and say things they should absolutely not, and it's a problem. But it's not a Boston. As much as I dislike Boston Celtics, it's not a Boston TD Garden problem, right? I mean, it's
an every NBA fan problem. However, I just think with teams who are particularly on everyone's radars, Celtics, Lakers, Knicks, sure, even the Sixers at times. It's definitely magnified. Yeah. And again, when one of those fan bases have their team in the finals,
right?
You're asking for an interesting conversation there. But yeah, I just think like the game, people want the whole physicality kind of thing, and people want the I guess whatever entertainment. Sure, why not? And then it happens, and then people complain. It's like, what do you actually want? like. Basketball is a physical game. It's a sport. Most of, if not all, sports are physical sports. Like, there is contact. There is people getting in the way of people and not fights, but physical altercations. It's like when there's people say, "Oh, well, the game basketball is not physical anymore. Like, this era's soft," and then the total opposite happens, and everyone has everything to say. I respect Draymond Green. Whether or not the things that he said on his podcast or whatever.
What's that about?
I don't really know. I saw something about it and I was like, honestly, I don't care because I respect him a lot as a player. I mean, like, to go out and be that guy defensively for years and years and years, and like, whether people like it or not, be a huge piece in a multi-year championship run, which continues to this year. It's undeniable for me, and I can't just sit back and cry if he's doing if he's being a physical basketball player. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and like scold him. "Oh, Draymond, you can't do that," because we're the same people when I don't know when Grayson Allen did he grabbed Alex Caruso's arm. Where was people then? That's clearly a non-basketball move. Where was everyone then? No one really said anything. There was like something on Twitter.
Yeah, it was hush-hush.
People were making jokes
Draymond,
about. Yeah, people were making jokes about Grayson Allen, but like, where were those people then?
Right.
Like, this is Draymond Green. He's a physical basketball player. This is nothing new. He's been doing this kind of. He plays this way, and he's been playing this way for years and years. I don't know why people are so surprised when they see it now.
Yeah. Draymond gets on my nerves, but even to your point, I do respect
Yeah, he's annoying,
what
but
he
that's
does.
the point.
And you said it best. His very, very, very important role in what is, a multi-year championship run that the Warriors have had. They're in the finals again. They're down 2-1. They still have a shot in this thing to win another one.
Yes, exactly.
So, and he's a big role in that. Some of the things about the whole podcast thing, the Draymond Green show.
Yeah.
A reporter asked him yesterday, after game 2, it sounded like you were giving some X's and O's on the scouting report or the game plan you guys had for the Warriors, and Draymond kind of snapped, and rightfully so. I didn't hear the podcast, but Draymond simply said that, well, I think in the episode I just said that, we need to close out on Al Horford and Marcus Smart and whoever else. And he's like, if that's X's and O's, then you don't know basketball, because it's like, all I said was we need to just get a hand up better. That's nothing.
Right.
You're not giving away any secrets there.
Reporter, from that I can gather the reporter just trying to stir the pot a little bit. And, Draymond likes to stir the pot as well. However, it's warranted when he does it. Usually there's already something in the pot to be stirred, and he just takes the spoon and is like, what, let's do it.
Yeah, so the reporter was pushing an agenda there, I'd say.
Probably.
So what are your thoughts, though? I found out 24 hours ago. I had no idea. Maybe I've been under a rock, but I found out that Draymond apparently, I don't know, I guess throughout the playoffs, has been recording episodes pretty much immediately after each game ends. What's your thought on that? Do you have any? Do you care?
I like that.
Yeah.
I think it, and one thing I will say is that people have issues with everything. People complain about everything, but one thing that I think is really setting him apart is the fact that he's capitalizing on what he's doing now. He's building these shows, he's being guests on other shows. That's not something we're really seeing NBA guys doing, and it's very respectable. I like that about Draymond. I like that he's doing that, because when you're doing something, when you're recording something like that immediately after the game, there's still that lighter underneath you. There's still that kind of flame going pretty strong. So it's a lot more unfiltered. And I think that's what the game needs.
Right.
Is guys like Draymond, scrappy guys that do things for teams who aren't necessarily the best players talent-wise, but still do lots of things to contribute to winning. That kind of thing I really like, and I think we're probably going to see more people doing that, to be honest, in maybe not the near future, but at least sometime soon.
Maybe following that trend a little bit that he's kind of set.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, he's doing it right now. He's capitalizing on who he is.
Right, and he's building for the future. Yeah. Probably. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I
agree. I think I don't have an issue with it. I have an issue with people having an issue with it, because
same.
It's
just nitpicking. It's just nitpicking.
We don't go to you and see what you're doing outside of your 40-hour, work week.
Right.
And, how are you performing at work because you were out at the bar last night or whatever it is. And it's the same with these players. Is that really the worst thing Draymond Green could do, is record an episode talking about basketball after a basketball game he played in? Or is it, maybe going to the club and, getting drunk and doing whatever and staying out till 3 a.m. and then he's got the finals the next day? We don't know what these other players are doing. Maybe some of them are doing something they shouldn't do.
In the 80s and 90s, they did that.
Yeah.
The NBA players, former NBA players, are on record of saying, they did that. MJ went to Atlantic City before games, did he not?
Right, and now we're making a big deal. We're making a big deal about a guy sitting in his hotel room talking about basketball for 30 minutes.
It's a combination of nitpicking and social media, because people who are totally unqualified are the ones that speak the most, and it's a combination of that and nitpicking. People love to nitpick everything, and this Draymond and his activities are not excluded from that.
Yeah. Yeah, so, that is our first ever Draymond Green segment of Planet 76. I hope you enjoyed it, but we didn't plan that really that much, but
no.
I think that was some good stuff. So let's transition back to the Sixers. So I'll be honest with you. I don't know
Okay.
what you've been posting lately on Instagram, because I was literally camping in somewhere in Pennsylvania. I don't even know where I was at. Outside of Philadelphia. We didn't have any cell service, not much of it. So I haven't been keeping up with Trust the Love too much.
That's okay.
But I do know that, the couple weeks worth of the off season we were in, you talked about a large need for depth for the Sixers, to target this off season. Maybe talk about that and what you've been personally focusing on Trust the Love over the last few days, and kind of, related to the Sixers and what they need.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from my page, from the standpoint of my page, I have a couple more things coming out soon about certain guys that I would like to see the Sixers pursue. You actually have a few of them on the list here on our outline. And it's just like, guys, they don't have to be top tier guys. There's a lot of quality bench players out there still that, one, can give you a lot for a little in terms of contract, but two, guys that, aren't going to be, guys who you have to trade the house for. Guys like, Daniel House. The Jazz picked him up off the waivers mid-season. He's not going to be a guy they're going to have to expend all these players and picks to get. That's a second-round pick. That's maybe a first-round pick. And he's a guy who can really contribute because, again, we speak to versatility, we speak to length, we speak to shot creation. He fits that category as, again, a couple guys on this list I see.
Yeah.
Otto Porter, Gary Harris, all guys that fit the mold of that kind of player and guys that aren't going to cost much.
Right.
Which I think helps the Sixers a lot because whether or not the whole Harden Harris thing, whatever, we can talk about that more down the line, but whether or not that folds, whatever happens with that, the Sixers still can use what they have to get these guys. Because, again, it's not going to be, cap space, cap flexibility altering moves.
Yeah,
They're going to be guys who borderline waiver players that, again, are some of these guys barely even play. I mean, Otto Porter wasn't playing up until a few months ago. Wanda Kyle Anderson, he's got on this list as well. He doesn't really play for the Warriors, but he's good. He's a very good player.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So you're still sticking, with this idea that the Sixers need depth. They need just guys that can go and get a bucket, the guys that can step in and help the Sixers bench, as opposed to the dream of like Zach LaVine and going and get another big name. Because you do realize that if we go get another big name, our bench isn't going to get these guys. You know what I mean? It's not going to improve. So.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's, we see teams getting guys. You're thinking, where are these guys coming from? They're guys that are contributing that are low-cost guys. Again, I'll mention Daniel House Jr. The Jazz picked him up mid-season. But he was with the Rockets. He was a solid NBA player. Guys like that, they're there. You're going to find guys, G League even.
Right.
On the waivers, overseas. These guys exist. You just have to find them. And, again, for the Sixers, in their case, luckily, it's not going to cost you a ton. So even if you are a little bit stretched in the cap, with cap flexibility and all that stuff, you can still explore the option of looking at these guys and saying, hey, you know what? We can trade, maybe a second-round pick or two for this guy or for these two guys. Like, it's not totally the value of players that you can still get even with little cap room is still pretty decent.
Agreed. Well said. I mean, you just think about, on paper, you look at the Sixers starting lineup, and it stacks up with anyone in the East. It just does on paper.
Oh, yeah.
And then, you look at a team like the Miami Heat who knocked the Sixers out, and they have 8 guys who were undrafted. Is that, I think, I'm
that's
not exaggerating, right? Like, that's
they're
right.
out there.
8 players that went undrafted. And, you look at the Boston Celtics. On paper, they're starting, they have Jason Tatum, who is turning into an absolute superstar. Absolutely. Fact. You got
As much as
Jaylen
it pains
Brown.
me to say.
Yes, it does. You got Jaylen Brown. But then outside of, Jaylen Brown's not a superstar. Jaylen Brown's very, 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 very good.
Yeah.
But outside of that, you got Marcus Smart, who's obviously a great defender. But he's not a superstar. You got Al Horford. I don't even want to say what he's been doing.
Don't even say. Don't even talk about.
But
Al
then
Horford.
you've got some role players. You got a Grant Williams. You got Derek White, Peyton Pritchard. Peyton Pritchard has the highest plus minus in the NBA Finals right now. Believe that or not. He only played 10 minutes in Game 3 too. Just guys that fit well into the system there clearly. Because again, on paper, you look at their starting lineup, you look at some of these role players. I don't know, but I don't think the Celtics are up 2-1 in the NBA Finals with that team, but they are because, to your point, those guys in that kind of role are very, very important, and the Sixers certainly lacked that. Now, we don't know exactly how the playoffs would have turned out if the Sixers had some of these names on their bench, but bench production this season and previous seasons has certainly hurt the Sixers when it comes to the playoffs. Because you have Joel Embiid, James Harden, Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey on the floor. You shouldn't be losing in the second round.
No, and again, to your point, to kind of emphasize that, that's the difference between great teams and just good teams, just good playoff teams. Like, the quality of your bench. Like, do you really have a guy who can come off the bench, two guys, and really consistently give you 15, 16, 17 plus? The Heat have it. The Bucks have it. The Warriors have it. The Celtics have it. Multiple, actually. So that's where the line is drawn. That's the line of, okay, are we good or are we great? And what is the line? Quality depth pieces, quality bench pieces, which again, teams have, but not enough of. Like the Sixers have it, just not enough.
Mm-hmm.
They have George Niang, who's fantastic. Shake Milton's good, and then there's question marks after that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. And I do wonder, what other teams are saying right now, because they might be saying some of the same things related to their issues, but obviously we know it because we witness it regularly every game with kind of the Sixers. And, oh boy, we need this, we need that, we need this. We know what happened at center this offseason, or this playoff season, I should say. But yeah, so I did a little bit of very, very little research, just found a couple articles with some names. As to potential targets. NBC Sports Philadelphia dropped one of these. We named a few of them already. I don't know if you want to give your thoughts on some of these guys. So Otto Porter Jr., Gary Harris, Jeremy Lamb. This is 7 wings to consider was the title of the article. Daniel House Jr., Juan Toscano-Anderson, Cody Martin, and Amir Coffey. Certainly any of those guys, I'll admit, would help our bench.
I'm fine with, again, like I mentioned, I have a couple things coming out about a few of those guys, but I love it. Any of these guys, any and all of them, just give all of them. Give me all of them, really. Any and all of them are guys who can shoot, guys who can defend, guys can create, some more so than others, but guys who can create offense, guys who can create shots for themselves. Like, that's what you need. You need multi-dimensional players, and I mean even the bigs for decent. Well, the bigs you have here. I mean, like the big guys listed here that you have for obviously there's an extent to how crafty they are offensively, but that's okay because with big men, it's there's some leeway you can give because like they're not expected to take guys off the dribble and all that stuff. But yeah.
So Andre Drummond, JaVale McGee, Robin Lopez, and JaMychal Green, Sixers Wire posted that. Give me one of them.
I'm not a fan of Robin Lopez. He's okay.
Yeah.
But any of the other guys are great. Obviously, Andre Drummond, please come back.
I think the thing that's concerning, and I might have said this in the article about Andre Drummond, is that I mean, we had him on a minimum contract this
He
year.
was on a vet's minimum, which is crazy.
And he played very well.
Crazy value.
Yeah, and he can absolutely go somewhere and start.
That's what I'm talking about. The value that exists. You can get a guy for vet minimum, and he's going to produce 10x of what you got him for.
Yeah.
Like, those guys exist. They're out there everywhere. I mean, guys are cycling in and out of the NBA at all times. There's guys out there that can do that for you.
So hopefully Andre Drummond's feelings aren't hurt from the being dealt for James Harden, and he would accept a role at the backup center behind Joel Embiid. He was so good, man.
He was fantastic.
He was very, very good for us. So that'd be great. But I think we're harping on this a lot, but I think the moral of the story here on Planet 76 in this episode is that there are guys that can help this team get to that next step in a very big way, and they're affordable. It's not requiring a Bradley Beal, a Damian Lillard, a Zach LaVine. We like star power in this league, but we already went and got the guy. Daryl Morey went and got the guy.
Yeah, there's a quota for star power, and I think the Sixers are there.
Right.
I think that's enough.
Let's just calm it down a little bit,
chill.
And now let's build because, there's just not a need.
Right.
If you can't win with those guys and the pieces around them, the problem is likely the pieces around those guys. So let's play a little who stays, who goes from the Sixers' current team. If you had a crystal ball, and we're going to pretend you do, to predict who's going to stay, who's going to go. I don't know who, I didn't do a super ton of research on like contract situations and all that, but I listed in parentheses next to these guys I'm going to name kind of why there's speculation as to why they could go. So I listed three quick names: Tobias Harris, Matisse Thybulle, Shake Milton. So Shake Milton has a club option this year, so Sixers may bring him back.
Yeah.
Matisse Thybulle, a lot of people are just tired of Matisse Thybulle. I think one right here next to me is a little bit in that party in his offensive ability. And then Tobias Harris has been the talk since he signed the contract about how bad of a contract it is. So any of those three guys you think could move, or why would they? In what situation would you want them to be? Do you want to bring them back? What do you foresee?
So I have an answer. I have a different answer for all three of these guys, and I can almost guarantee that whoever's watching / listening can guess. But also you, Troy, can definitely guess as to what I'm going to say. But pretty neutral on Harris. Made a post today saying that, like, basically, I'm okay if he gets traded because it's going to be, if he's traded, it's necessary to free up cap space.
Mm-hmm.
However, I would like him to stay. And ultimately, that's it. It's
So
as simple as that for me.
So dumb it down for me and anybody else is, so Tobias Harris, if he gets dealt, that means that, like, Zach LaVine's coming? Is that the,
Well, I don't
someone
know
of
if
that
it's-
caliber? It's not Tobias Harris is leaving to bring in these, Jeremy Lambs, Otto Porters.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is that they would ultimately want to give up Harris's contract to another team to, again, free up cap space. I mean, for a star, it's definitely possible because, there's always going to be rumblings of the Sixers bringing in another star.
Right.
However, I really think the Sixers would be better off using the freed up cap space for depth.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like, you can still, like, it just all depends. It just all depends on what the Sixers really want to do, because from what we've seen in the past 2 years, Daryl Morey doesn't seem to be a big fan of going after guys like that for the bench, which who knows, now it could change since it's pretty clear that's what the Sixers need. But again, he likes star hunting. We know this. He's been looking, like, obviously he waited for James Harden, but last year there were rumblings that the Sixers were going to trade for Zach LaVine at the deadline. I think Daryl played into that a little bit. I forget exactly what he said, but I think Daryl played into that a little bit. So he, that's a guy who's going to be hunting big names. So I personally can't say for certain either way. I just to be honest with you, if the Sixers do end up getting rid of Harris's contract, I think they'd be better off using it otherwise aside from getting a star, like otherwise doing other things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, if it's not a star, it means you're going to bring in some pieces that are certainly a caliber above, again, these guys that we just mentioned. Maybe two guys that are, very good. It's hard, though, because now I'm biting my tongue. I'm like, I don't know, that contract. I feel so bad for Tobias, man. He is so good. He had such a wonderful season. I saw an article on this,
been the best
and I was like,
performer, aside from Embiid, since he's been here.
Right.
So, okay, not 2020, though. We don't count the bubble. We don't count the
bubble.
No way.
Neither do the Lakers. Tobias, man. This article I read was kind of what you and I say this entire season about, or last season, just like, it's not his fault he signed the contract.
Right.
He got offered the contract. He signed it. And
True.
Don't blame him for doing what Tobias Harris does. He's not underperforming. He's doing what he's always done.
Yes.
Okay. So Tobias Harris, I get that. I'm with you there. And I agree wholeheartedly. I think if he moves, it's because, we got something up our sleeve kind of thing. Mm-hmm. All right. Matisse Thybulle, thoughts on his ordeal?
Yeah.
You want him gone, or is he gone?
Yeah, I think I want him gone. I don't know if he's going to be gone. But
wow. You're over it.
Yeah.
I wonder, I don't know. I don't know what that would look like if he is.
Depends on what team's trading for him.
Right. Or what kind of deal it is, or...
Every team values certain players differently.
Yeah.
So unless it's like Steph Curry, which every team values Steph Curry the same, probably.
Well, yeah, I think Matisse, he's certainly, if we go after a star or whatever, he's a name that would get packaged as an asset.
That's true.
But, we'll see. I don't know, man. I don't see him going, but we'll see. Okay, Shake Milton. You want to see him brought back?
Yes.
Very much so. He's got the hands folded. Yeah, I think that's the deal with him. Sixers can bring him back. So, okay. Anyone else that's being tossed around that you're hearing on the Sixers?
Someone said Harden, but it's pretty black and white to me at this point.
Yeah.
So, but that's it. These three guys for sure have been talking points. Obviously, Harris a little more so than others, but yeah.
Right. And then, so obviously, Joel is Mr. Untouchable. James Harden's untouchable. Tyrese Maxey untouchable. I still can't believe that article I saw from a big name that said Tyrese Maxey. What can the Sixers get for him? They're not doing that. Okay, are those the three guys that? Anybody? If anybody else goes, as long as it's for the benefit of the team, you're good with it.
Yeah, aside from George Niang, but that's just my personal bias, which is fine. But.
George Niang needs to come on Planet 76.
Yes, he does. I've been messaging him every day for a week. I know he's on Instagram.
He's very active.
I replied to his stories all the time, and he was just on a podcast.
Very active.
This is the time for him to join podcasts, and he needs to get on this one.
He knows what's up. He just got to do it. Follow through.
I know he sees my messages. 76. There's no way he doesn't.
Don't ignore this man.
There's no way he doesn't.
He's your biggest fan, Mr. Trust the Love. Give the people what they want. Join a 20-minute podcast with Planet 76.
Yes.
All right.
I approve this message.
Okay. Let me give a quick rundown where we've got less than a minute to go. So you can look forward on Planet 76 in the off season to some guests. We got some guests, maybe some returning guests, some new guests coming on in future episodes. So
definitely
be on the lookout for that.
Returning, but hopefully new.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Don't cross your toes though, because that'll jinx us.
So if you got an idea or you want to join the pod, let us know. And we'll bring you on, and we'll have some fun. Planet 76, we'll have some more answers, some more rumors, some more things to talk about as we push ahead. The finals will be wrapping up soon, and the draft's coming, trades are coming, free agency's coming. There's a lot to get to before the start of the season, and you can find it all here on Planet 76. We will see you next time.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to Planet 76 Podcast. Please consider subscribing. It helps us out a lot and lets you know that you enjoy what we post. So thank you, and peace out.